I feel tired all the time, no matter what I do. This is something I hear a lot, especially when people come to me because they're struggling to lose weight. Fatigue is a huge symptom amongst people who are struggling to lose weight. And today I want to talk about fatigue. I want to talk about why you get tired and how we can solve this problem of fatigue. And hopefully by the end of this video, you can follow the steps that I'm going to outline in this video to help you with your fatigue. Okay, so before we even talk about fatigue and the symptom of fatigue, the way I do things, I always like to go through understanding the body. So we'll talk about the foundation of the body and what the body's main purpose is, right? And so at its core, the body's job is to produce energy. Without energy, the body will not function, right? Without energy, you will die. And so the body is going to prioritize the creation of ATP or energy, which is the currency of the body. And so what does the body need to produce energy, right? It needs a few things. So let's think of the body as a plant, because that's usually like the core 5 things that the body needs. So the body needs water, right? Because we're made up of primarily water. The body needs oxygen. The body needs food, right? Nutritious food. The body needs rest. So sleep is very important. And then lastly, the body needs sunlight. Okay. And so whenever someone comes in and they're complaining about fatigue, that is one of the first, those are the lenses that I look through. I always ask myself, are they optimizing these 5 things that they need for the body to function? Now, there are 5 other things that the body needs to function, but I don't want to I might cover those things. But let's start with the first 5 things, okay? So if, for example, you're not drinking enough water, if you are dehydrated, right, that is going to cause problems in the body, because like I said, the body is 70+% water, and water is important for the body to function. So if you're not drinking enough water or you're not absorbing enough water, then that's going to be an issue. And so that can present itself in different ways. For example, it could be that you're not drinking enough water, or it could be that the body is not absorbing enough water. But at the end of the day, hydration is important. And so when you're drinking water, you want to make sure you're drinking enough water. Typically, I would say that drink half of your ideal body weight in ounces, okay, at the bare minimum. And if possible, add some minerals to it. Add some magnesium, add some sodium, potassium to help your body absorb the water best, okay? So that's the first thing that you can do. You can drink more water. The second thing that you can do is, well, the second thing that you need for the body to function, to make energy, is oxygen. So how does that play into energy? Well, if you don't have iron, for example, which is important for transportation of oxygen to the various tissues so that the mitochondria can make ATP or energy, then we're in trouble, right? And so you see a lot of people who struggle with, it could be iron deficiency anemia, or they have anemia of chronic disease. Basically, the bottom line is that they don't have iron, and iron is important for transportation of oxygen. So you have to look at your nutrition and what you're eating and ask yourself, are you eating foods that contain iron? Okay, so you want to make sure this is going to be like your red meats, it's going to be your organ meats. Some people would take iron supplementation. Sometimes you can get iron from vegetables. It doesn't matter. Always just evaluate yourself and ask, are you taking in enough iron? And do you have the capability to transport oxygen throughout the blood? And that's just one example. Another example might be smoking. Are you destroying your lungs? But we're not going to go there. So we talked about water. We talked about oxygen. The third thing that you're going to need, I'm going to leave food for last. So the third thing you're going to need is sleep. And of course, it sounds counterintuitive, but if you're not getting enough sleep, then you're going to feel tired and you're going to feel chronically fatigued. And more importantly, if you have a lot of sleep debt, which basically means that, let's say 2 or 3 days in a row, you've had 4 hours of sleep, so you've accumulated a debt of sleep that you haven't had, then that's going to create imbalance in your body, right? An energy imbalance. So you're going to feel tired. And a lot of times when your body feels tired and hasn't gotten enough rest, it creates stress in the body, which will lead to another thing that we will talk about. So you want to make sure that you're getting enough sleep, and you want to make sure that the quality of the sleep is good. So this is going to be important. The main thing I will say in this situation is avoid things like screens an hour or even 2 hours before bedtime, just so your mind has the ability to like calm down and you can fall asleep easier. Another thing that you might want to do is you might want to take supplements like magnesium, which like I think magnesium glycinate is a good one that helps your muscle relax and helps you sleep better. And the good thing with magnesium is it's a water soluble vitamin, so you can't take too much, but I would say try magnesium glycinate to help you with your sleep. Okay, so that's the third thing. The fourth thing is sunlight, and that kind of ties into sleep too, but we need sunlight to function. Okay, and specifically I'm just going to focus on vitamin D. So vitamin D is essential for your mitochondria to make ATP. Okay, vitamin D is essential for so many different things. As a matter of fact, even though it's a vitamin, it acts like a hormone, so it's critical for the body to have vitamin D so it can function. And you don't only have to get vitamin D from sunlight, but it's advantageous to get vitamin D from sunlight because it doesn't just help with the vitamin D, but it also helps with your circadian rhythm, which goes back to the point about sleep. But if you're not able to get vitamin D from the sun, you can still get vitamin D from food. So for example, sardines are a great source of vitamin D. But ideally take a supplement if you're not able to go outside, and then eat foods that are high in vitamin D. Okay? And then the last thing, which we're going to talk about, is food. Okay, the foods that you eat are going to determine whether or not you're going to have energy in your body or whether or not you're not going to have energy in your body. And I could do a completely 1-hour video on just the foods and how it affects energy, but the simplest way I can put it is if you take in healthy foods, typically you will have more energy. And if you take in unhealthy foods, typically you will have less energy. So when we're eating food, the whole purpose of food is to break down the food to get macronutrients and micronutrients. So your macros are going to be your protein, your fats, and your carbs. And then your micronutrients are going to be vitamins and minerals. And we already touched on like a vitamin that's essential, like vitamin D. And we touched on a mineral that's essential, which is magnesium and iron, right? So you have to get those things from your food in order for your body to function properly. If you're eating foods that don't have these things, then you're going to have an energy imbalance in the body, right? So let's say, for example, you're eating a lot of processed foods. What happens is that you are going to take in more energy in terms of calories than your body necessarily needs, but those calories are going to be devoid of vitamins and nutrients. And so what happens is you take in this food, typically you have too much energy, but it's not the right type of energy. And this energy that you're taking in, that's not the right type of energy, it causes two things. It causes hormonal imbalances, right? That's how you end up with high insulin and insulin resistance. And it also causes inflammation. So whenever you have excess glucose, your body is going to store the excess in fat. And fat, typically, when you store enough fat, it can cause inflammation, right? Some of the fat cells can break up, and then that leads to release of toxins into the blood. That makes the body overreact, and then you're going to have inflammation in the body. And another thing that causes inflammation in the body is going to be poor gut health. Again, if you eat foods that are processed foods or that are not nutritious foods, you're feeding the bad bacteria. And when the bad bacteria break up, they eat the food, and their metabolites are going to be toxic to the body. They're going to cause chaos in the body. And that creates a lot of imbalance in the body, because now you have a negative not a negative, I want to say you're taking in more negative energy technically, right? And so the negative energy is creating chaos in the body. So the negative energy here is the processed foods and the carbohydrates and the seed oils and all of that, versus if you were eating whole foods that contain macronutrients and that contain macronutrients, then that food would feed the good bacteria and you would have healthy metabolites or healthy results from the good bacteria. And typically when you eat whole foods, you're not going to eat too much of them, so you're going to be in an energy balance, right? So one of the reasons why you have fatigue is because you're inflamed, and inflammation typically will come about because either you're eating processed foods and you're feeding the bad bacteria, or you're consuming foods that have too many calories and it creates an energy imbalance. And so you want to make sure that you're eating whole foods. You eat healthy fats, healthy carbs, healthy proteins. And if you can do those things, you will be able to take in the right amount of food, and that will create balance, energy balance in the body. Now, one other thing that I want to touch on is the fact that when you eat all of this food, some of it, the food has to come out, right? And so if you're not able to eliminate waste from your system, which is the sixth thing that we're going to talk about, then you're going to have an energy imbalance. Because think of it, if there's waste in your body, that's creating toxicity in the body, that's creating inflammation in the body, again, that I talked about before. So you want to make sure that you're able to get rid of waste, right? So most of the time, waste is going to be coming out from you have to urinate, right? So that also ties into hydration. You have to defecate, and so the GI system, or if you have constipation, that could be an issue because you're holding on to waste and the body's reabsorbing it, and that's circulating in your blood, and that's causing havoc in the body. So that process is going to be important. And for a lot of people, that process requires fiber, which goes back again to eating whole foods. If you're eating whole foods that contain fiber, you can actually move, right? You move the stuff. So removing waste is going to be critical for helping with fatigue, right? And then the other thing that's tied to removing waste is going to be your liver. And again, if your liver is filled with fat because of consumption of processed foods and sugar, then the liver is not going to be able to do its job, and it's not going to remove waste properly. And the liver can be affected by other things too. It could be affected by the fact that you're drinking too much alcohol, and so you're developing fatty liver in that way, or you're developing you're causing injury to the liver, which makes it not work properly. And the liver's job is also to help with removing waste in the body. So you have to make sure that if waste is an issue, or if you're thinking about, am I removing waste from my body, you have to make sure that the liver is working properly, and you have to make sure that the colon is moving properly. So those are 6 things. Maybe I'll talk about the other things, because these are just foundations of the body. And so the next thing that you need to do to make sure that you're not tired all the time and you're not fatigued all the time is you want to move your body. So exercise is important, because when you move your body, you're going to activate your muscles, and your muscles have the ability to take in 70% of the glucose that is in your bloodstream. And so one of the issues that comes about when you overconsume is that you end up with insulin resistance, or you have high insulin or high glucose, and that makes you tired, right? But if you can move your body, then your muscle will take a lot of that energy, and it will give you more, it will help create balance in your body, as opposed to having energy imbalance, which is why you're tired, because there's less of something and there's too much of something. Right? So if you're always tired, just think that the scales are not balanced. Something's too high and something's too low. So movement is going to be critical for helping to create balance in your body. So that's the 7th thing. The 8th thing is going to be your reproductive system. So it doesn't matter if you're male or female, reproduction is important. And a lot of times for women, you can get tired because of your menstrual cycle, especially if you don't understand your menstrual cycle and the different phases. Some phases are going to make you more energetic, and some phases are going to make you more tired. And that is by design, and that is natural. So pay attention to your menstrual cycle. Where are you feeling tired? Is it a certain time of the month, or is it constant? And if it's constant fatigue, then something is off, right? You could also be having issues related to excessive bleeding in your menstrual cycle, which will then cause issues with your iron, for example, which could then cause more problems like fatigue. Or if you have something like fibroids, that will cause you to have iron deficiency. So you want to also look at your menstrual cycle or your reproductive system as a whole and ask yourself, are things good in that regard? All right, the ninth thing I'm going to talk about is protection. The body, one of the laws of the body is that it's going to protect itself. And I already alluded to this, but your immune system is the part of the body that's in charge of protection. And if you are inflamed, your immune system is going to be chronically activated. And so again, going back to nutrition, you want to limit inflammation, because now what happens is the immune system is on overdrive. It's doing too much work, right? Trying to deal with the inflammation and the toxins that are being released in the blood, and that's going to keep your energy levels low, right? Because it's just an imbalance there. So you want to make sure that you watch what you're eating. You eat foods that are not going to cause inflammation to the body, and so that can help create balance in the body. And the last thing that is critical is going to be your brain. The brain is the most important, in my opinion, most important organ in the body, because the brain controls the body, and inputs from the brain help show us the outputs, right? And so if the brain is not balanced, which a lot of times the brain will not be balanced if the body is not balanced, then nothing's going to happen, right? So if you're chronically fatigued, a lot of times you're also going to be dealing with brain fog, or you're not able to think clearly. And the reason for that is there's an energy imbalance in the body. And so if, for example, if the immune system is high and it's working on overdrive when it's not supposed to be, your brain energy is probably going to be low, right? And so you're just not able to focus, for example. You're not able to think clearly, or you feel overwhelmed because like everything is low here. There's not enough energy going into your brain, and you need energy to go into your brain so that it can tell your body what it needs to do. Your brain is the most important thing that you have to protect if you want to have a healthy body. And so whenever you're thinking about fatigue, you have to ask yourself, are you protecting your brain? Are you treating your brain properly? And part of that is also sleep, right? If you're not able to sleep, then your brain is not able to rest and recover and repair. And so then there's going to be brain issues. And then if your body is not balanced, then there's not enough energy going to your brain. So those are like the 10 foundational pieces to the body that you have to look at. When someone says, I'm tired, I look through those 10 lenses and I ask myself, are you getting enough water? Are you eating healthy foods? Is your oxygen moving properly in your body? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting enough sunlight? Are you removing waste from your body? Is your protection, is the protection part of your body, your immune system, is it on overdrive, right? Are you moving your body? And how is your reproductive system? Is there something going on there that is causing problems? And lastly, how is your brain, right? And so that is how I look at the body. I look at everything through the 10, I call them core principles of the body, where if one of those things is off, then it creates imbalance in the whole body and you get symptoms like fatigue. So I hope that this video was helpful. Look through the 10 things that I mentioned and ask yourself if you're optimizing all 10 things, or if there's just one thing that's off, start working on that one thing. And I promise you, your fatigue is going to get better. All right. If you are interested in losing weight or losing fat, I have a fat loss program that is going to help you not only with insulin resistance, but just helping create balance in your body, because weight gain is an imbalance in the body. And so you have to learn how to create balance in your body so you can have a healthy body. So I have a program called Shed Fat Gain Weight. I have a program called Shed Fat Gain Health, and this program is basically going to teach you how to go from imbalance in your body to balance so you can have a healthy body and healthy mind, healthy spirit, all of that. So if that's something that's interesting to you and you're looking for someone who can help guide you through the weight loss process, then let me know. I'll leave my application below. You can contact me and let's see if we're a good fit to work together. All right. I want to also send you to my next video, or the previous video that I had, where I talk in depth about my process of how I help people lose weight, and I talk a little bit more about the foundations of the body, and I talk about insulin resistance and the solution to weight loss. So if you're interested in that, then check it out. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.